The morning sun filtered softly through the tall pines, sending warm golden beams that dappled the forest floor. The air smelled of pine, damp earth, and something quietly alive, as if the forest itself were breathing. Sarah adjusted the straps of her worn backpack and paused, taking in the calm rhythm of her surroundings. Birds sang faintly, their calls echoing gently through the trees. Every sound seemed magnified in this quiet world, yet peaceful, never startling. Then she noticed movement. A flicker of gold near the edge of the clearing. A dog. It was a scruffy golden retriever mix, with fur that caught the sunlight like tiny threads of gold. The dog stood perfectly still, tail relaxed, ears alert. Its eyes were fixed on something far beyond the trail. It didn't bark, didn't run, it just waited, radiating calm focus. Something stirred in Sarah's chest, a quiet pull, like she had been meant to see this dog. "Hey there," she whispered, soft and cautious, careful not to disturb its calm. The dog tilted its head, acknowledging her presence, then gently nudged a fallen leaf with its paw. The gesture was small, but it carried a weight that she couldn't explain. For a heartbeat, she hesitated. Then, instinctively, she took a step toward it. The dog waited, then took a few steps down a narrow, shaded path. She followed. The forest seemed to bend with them. Sunlight filtered through the branches, creating soft patterns on the trail. Every sound, the crunch of pine needles underfoot, the distant trickle of water, a bird's tentative call, felt vivid, deliberate, like the world was holding its breath. The dog paused at a fork in the path, sniffed the air, and looked back at her. Its eyes, warm and intelligent, seemed to say, "Trust me, this way." Her heart warmed with curiosity. She followed. As they moved deeper, shadows stretched over moss-covered rocks, and the golden light softened to a gentle haze. The dog walked with calm purpose, pausing at small details, a twisted root, a patch of wildflowers, a fallen branch, and waited for her to notice. "Where are you going, boy?" Sarah murmured, more to herself than the dog. His tail lifted slightly, a quiet encouragement, and he moved forward again. Step by step, the world narrowed to this path, this moment, this shared journey. They came to a small clearing, sunlight spilling in like warm honey. The dog stopped, ears twitching, gaze fixed on something just beyond the tree line. Sarah crouched beside him, sensing the weight of anticipation. The forest seemed to hush, as if everything was waiting with them. She noticed small things, the way the wind lifted the dog's fur, the shimmer of sunlight on the dew, the soft rustle of leaves. Each detail felt meaningful, though she didn't yet understand why. The dog's stance was purposeful, connected, aware of something she could not see. Her chest tightened with quiet awe. The kind of awe that made her hold her breath and listen, really listen, to the world around her. The forest, the sunlight, the dog, everything felt alive in a way she hadn't felt before. And then she felt it deep in her bones. Whatever the dog had sensed would change everything. A gentle pause, a soft breath, and the forest seemed to lean in, golden and quiet. The clearing was quiet, bathed in soft golden light. Sarah remained crouched, her eyes following the dog as it sniffed the edges of the path, its nose low to the forest floor. Every movement felt deliberate enough to make her slow her own pace. There was a rhythm here, a gentle pulse between her steps and the dog's. It was the way the dog paused every few meters, tilting its head, ears alert. It seemed to sense something beyond the ordinary. A small twig snapped underfoot, and the dog flinched slightly, but not with fear, more like recognition, like it understood the subtle language of the forest. Sarah took a deep breath. "You're leading me somewhere, aren't you?" she murmured softly. The dog didn't answer, of course, but the tilt of its head and the soft wag of its tail felt like agreement. She felt her curiosity stretch, pulling her forward, following the quiet insistence of this unexpected guide. The path narrowed, winding between tall pine trunks. Shafts of sunlight cut through the branches, highlighting floating dust motes and the gentle sway of leaves. The dog paused again near a cluster of ferns, sniffing a patch of earth. Its tail lifted slightly, as if marking the spot. Sarah knelt noticing the faint imprint of paw prints pressed into the soil. The pattern was unusual, careful, intentional. She traced the prints with her fingers, marveling at the precision. "You've been here before, haven't you?" she whispered. The dog glanced at her, soft eyes reflecting the morning light, and nudged her hand gently with its nose, as if to confirm. They continued, deeper into the forest. The sounds around them were layered: birds, distant water, leaves rustling with the wind. But there was no fear, only heightened awareness, as if the dog had tuned into a frequency of the woods that Sarah couldn't hear yet. She began to notice the small things: a broken branch arranged almost like a marker, a patch of moss disturbed in a subtle line. The dog paused at each of these markers, sniffing, observing, then glancing back at her. Sarah's heart swelled with admiration. This wasn't just a dog wandering the woods, it was a guide, intuitive and patient, waiting for her to notice the same patterns it did. A gentle warmth spread through her chest, a mix of curiosity, trust, and something deeper. She realized she had been alone in the forest for years without ever feeling truly guided, and here, with this dog, there was a quiet clarity she hadn't known she'd been missing. "Show me," she said softly. "I want to see what you see." The dog responded with a small, deliberate bark, then moved forward along a barely visible trail. Sarah followed, her senses heightened, taking in every detail: the way sunlight glinted off a dewdrop, the soft hum of life in the air, the gentle sway of branches. Every step felt like part of a conversation she couldn't fully understand yet. Eventually, they reached a small hollow surrounded by ancient oaks. The dog paused, sniffed the air, and sat down. Its gaze was fixed on a point just beyond the hollow, unwavering. Sarah knelt beside it, feeling her pulse match the rhythm of its stillness. "What are you pointing me to?" she whispered, more to herself than the dog. She noticed a faint glimmer in the undergrowth, something small, perhaps overlooked by anyone not paying close attention. The dog's body remained calm but purposeful, every line of it communicating patience and focus. Sarah leaned forward, curiosity burning. She felt a gentle pull, an unspoken instruction: observe, notice, understand. The forest around them seemed to hold its breath. Every sound, every flutter of movement, became magnified. She realized the dog wasn't just leading her physically, it was teaching her to see the subtle, hidden details of the world. And in that moment, Sarah understood, this was more than a walk through the forest. It was a lesson in trust, observation, and quiet connection. The dog's intuition was subtle, patient, and deliberate, qualities she hadn't realized she'd been craving in her own life. The dog nudged her hand again, soft and deliberate, and Sarah smiled. "Okay," she whispered. "I trust you." The woods held them in soft golden silence, and Sarah felt a warmth she hadn't known she could feel alone in nature. She didn't yet know where this trail would lead, but she knew she wanted to follow, step by step, guided by a creature who seemed to understand more than she could yet imagine. And for the first time in a long while, she felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. Sarah moved slowly, careful not to disturb the forest's quiet rhythm. The dog walked just ahead, every movement deliberate, almost reverent. There was a patience in its steps that made her heart soften. She had been in the woods countless times before, but she had never felt anything like this, never felt so attuned to the small, subtle details around her. The dog paused at a narrow stream, sniffing along the edge where water met mossy soil. It dipped a paw carefully in the water, watching the ripples spread out. Sarah crouched beside it, mesmerized by the gentle ripple and the dog's attentiveness. "You notice everything, don't you?" she murmured softly. The dog tilted its head, as if acknowledging the compliment, and nudged her hand with a wet nose. She began to notice small patterns she would normally have missed: the way certain plants leaned toward the sunlight, the quiet curve of the stream, the soft traces of creatures that had passed through hours before. The dog was pointing her toward these tiny details, not with urgency, but with a quiet insistence. Sarah felt herself slowing even more, observing what the dog noticed, letting her senses expand in ways she hadn't anticipated. Every pause the dog took was a lesson in stillness. When it sniffed, she sniffed. When it sat, she sat. She began to realize that following the dog was not just about the path, it was about noticing the forest itself. Its secrets, its subtle beauty, its gentle life. The dog stopped again near a tangle of roots. Its ears perked, eyes fixed on something in the undergrowth. Sarah leaned in closer, heart tightening with curiosity. There was a small glimmer, a rock, polished smooth by time, resting almost hidden among the roots. The dog's gaze never wavered from it. Sarah bent down, touching the cool stone. She could feel a strange energy, almost as if it were a key to something unseen. "You found something, haven't you?" she whispered. The dog nudged her shoulder gently, then moved a few steps forward, inviting her to follow. Sarah rose, brushing leaves from her pants, and continued along the narrow path. She felt a strange mixture of wonder, trust, and anticipation, a sense that she was on the verge of discovering something important. The deeper they went, the more Sarah realized how much she relied on the dog's intuition. It was not leading her blindly, it was teaching her to see, to notice, to feel. Every subtle pause, every glance, every careful sniff had a purpose she was only beginning to understand. The dog was patient, allowing her to catch up, to experience the forest at her own pace, but never letting her stray from its quiet guidance. At one point, the path opened into a small glade. Sunlight poured in, warming the moss and leaves. The dog stopped at the center, sitting calmly, eyes scanning the area. Sarah crouched beside it, taking in the serene beauty, the soft green of the moss, the golden sunlight, the whisper of the wind through the leaves. She realized she had been holding her breath, but the moment was so gentle, so complete, that she didn't want to let it go. "Thank you for bringing me here," she whispered. Her voice barely carried, yet it felt as if the forest itself had heard. The dog leaned slightly into her touch, a small, comforting presence, and for the first time she felt a true sense of partnership with this creature. Not just following, not just observing, but walking together, noticing together, understanding together. The forest seemed alive with soft energy. Every rustle of leaves, every distant bird call, every shimmer of light became a part of this quiet symphony. Sarah felt a profound connection, not just with the dog, but with the world around her. The dog's quiet intuition had opened her senses, allowing her to feel and see in ways she hadn't known she could. As they moved toward the edge of the glade, the dog paused once more, ears twitching, eyes fixed on something just ahead. Sarah approached slowly, heart pounding with anticipation and gentle excitement. There was a sense of purpose here, a subtle tension that was not frightening, but insistent, a feeling that something awaited, something meaningful. And in that moment, Sarah realized the depth of her bond with the dog. She trusted its guidance, not blindly, but intuitively. She had begun to see the forest through its eyes, to understand its quiet language, to notice the world in a slower, deeper, warmer way. She took a deep breath, letting the forest fill her senses, letting the dog's calm presence anchor her. And then she smiled softly, whispering, "Lead the way." "I'm ready." The dog looked back at her one more time, eyes full of quiet understanding, and stepped forward. Sarah followed, each step a soft rhythm, a shared heartbeat, a journey of trust and wonder that had only just begun. The forest felt warmer now, as though the sunlight itself was embracing them. Sarah walked slowly, matching the dog's calm pace, and noticed every tiny detail, the shimmer of dew on leaves, the gentle sway of branches, the distant call of a bird. Each sound and movement felt amplified, meaningful, almost like a soft conversation she was learning to understand. The dog paused beside a cluster of wildflowers, tilting its head. It nudged one of the blossoms gently with its nose, then looked back at Sarah, eyes soft and expectant. She knelt beside it, touching the petals, feeling their delicate texture. "You notice things I'd never see," she whispered, a smile tugging at her lips. The dog nudged her hand in return, a quiet affirmation of their growing bond. Step by step, they moved deeper into the forest. The path was narrow now, barely more than a trail of moss and dirt, yet every pause the dog took was deliberate, patient. Sarah realized she was beginning to trust not just the dog's direction, but its timing, the rhythm it set. She felt herself slowing, her thoughts quieting, letting the forest's gentle pulse guide her. At one point, the dog stopped near a fallen log covered in soft moss. It sniffed the edges carefully, then sat, eyes fixed on the space just beyond. Sarah crouched beside it, heart fluttering with curiosity. She noticed the way sunlight filtered through the branches, casting golden patterns across the moss. Each ray seemed to spotlight the dog, highlighting its attentive posture, the way it seemed entirely connected to this place. "You're showing me more than the path, aren't you?" she murmured softly. The dog's tail gave a small, steady wag, and it nudged her hand again. Sarah felt a warmth spread through her chest, a quiet reassurance, a reminder that she wasn't alone, that someone or something was guiding her gently, patiently, toward understanding. As they continued, Sarah's awareness of the forest deepened. She noticed subtle shifts, the way the wind carried scents differently along certain paths, the faint impressions of animals that had passed days before, the soft glow of sunlight on hidden patches of moss. The dog paused at each detail, allowing her to see it too, teaching her the art of noticing. Their shared silence became comfortable, almost sacred. Sarah felt a profound connection forming, not just to the dog, but to the forest itself. Every careful sniff, every deliberate glance from the dog felt like a conversation without words. It was as if the dog understood more than she could yet comprehend and was inviting her to learn. Eventually, the trail led to a small clearing surrounded by towering oaks. Sunlight poured in, warming the ground in soft golden pools. The dog stopped at the center, sitting calmly, and looked toward a dense cluster of ferns and undergrowth. Its gaze was steady, purposeful. Sarah knelt beside it, feeling a quiet anticipation, her pulse quickening with gentle excitement. "You've brought me somewhere special," she whispered, reaching out to stroke the dog's fur. The warmth of its coat, the soft rhythm of its breathing, grounded her in the moment. She realized the dog's guidance wasn't just leading her physically, it was teaching her patience, observation, and trust. The forest seemed to hush around them. Every sound, every flicker of light, every rustle of leaves became heightened. Sarah's senses felt sharper, her mind quieter, her heart open. She realized that following the dog had become more than a journey through the woods, it was a shared experience, a dialogue of trust and quiet understanding. The dog nudged her hand once more, then rose and moved toward the edge of the clearing. Sarah followed, her footsteps light, her heart full of warmth and curiosity. She had begun to notice how much she relied on the dog's intuition, how natural it felt to mirror its careful attention. As they reached the far side of the clearing, Sarah paused to take in the view. There, half hidden by ferns and low-hanging branches, she caught the faint glimmer of something unusual, something small and deliberate, placed with care. The dog's eyes remained fixed on it, unwavering. Her chest tightened with anticipation. She had no idea what it was, but she sensed its importance. She knelt beside the dog, whispering, "Show me." "I'm ready." The dog's tail wagged slightly, calm yet insistent, and it took a slow step forward. Sarah mirrored its movement, heart beating in quiet rhythm with its own. And in that moment, the bond between them felt complete, not just as hiker and dog, but as companions, explorers, and witnesses to something quietly extraordinary. Sarah realized that, whatever lay ahead, she trusted the dog fully. Its gentle intuition had taught her to see, to feel, and to open herself to the subtle mysteries of the forest. She exhaled slowly, letting the soft warmth of the sunlight and the steady presence of the dog fill her. And then, with a small, deliberate nod, she followed as the dog moved toward the unknown, ready to discover the hidden secret the forest had been waiting to reveal. The trail narrowed further, winding between towering pines and thick undergrowth. Sarah moved slowly, following the dog's calm, deliberate pace. Every step felt measured, as if the forest itself were guiding them towards something waiting to be discovered. The sunlight streamed through the canopy in soft golden shafts, illuminating patches of moss and fallen leaves, painting the woods with a serene glow. The dog paused near a cluster of ferns and sniffed carefully at the ground. Its ears twitched, and it tilted its head toward a low-hanging branch, then back at Sarah. She crouched beside it, her curiosity swelling. "What is it this time?" she whispered, voice soft, almost reverent. The dog nudged her hand gently, a quiet insistence, "Pay attention." Sarah leaned closer and noticed subtle patterns she had missed before, a faint indentation in the soil, as if something had been placed there deliberately. A small arrangement of stones, almost hidden beneath leaves, caught the sunlight in tiny glimmers. Her heart quickened with anticipation. The dog sat nearby, calm and watchful, as if waiting for her to understand. "You're leading me to something special," she murmured, brushing leaves from the stones. She could feel the quiet importance of the spot, a significance that went beyond words. The dog's gaze remained fixed, steady and purposeful, guiding her attention to details she might have overlooked. They continued along the path, deeper into the forest. Sarah's awareness had sharpened. She noticed the way the light shifted as branches swayed, how the wind carried subtle scents, how distant birdsong created a delicate rhythm around them. Every pause, every sniff, every glance from the dog became a lesson in observation and patience. Eventually, they reached a small clearing, softly illuminated by sunlight filtering through the trees. In the center, partially hidden beneath moss and low ferns, was a small wooden box. Its surface was weathered but cared for, edges worn smooth. Sarah's breath caught. She had no idea who had placed it there or why, but the dog's calm, focused presence made her feel safe, ready to witness whatever lay within. The dog stepped closer to the box and sat, ears alert, eyes unwavering. Sarah knelt beside it, brushing away a thin layer of leaves. The box felt warm in her hands, as if it had been waiting for her all along. She lifted the lid slowly. Inside, she found a small collection of carefully arranged objects, a smooth stone, a folded piece of fabric, a delicate feather, and a small note written in neat, careful handwriting. Her fingers trembled slightly as she unfolded the note. It read, "For the one who notices, for the one who sees the hidden beauty. Let this remind you to trust what guides you." Sarah looked up at the dog, whose eyes seemed to reflect the same quiet wisdom as the message. It nudged her hand softly, as if to say, "This is why we came here." Tears pricked the corners of her eyes, not from sadness, but from a profound sense of connection. She realized the dog had guided her to something far beyond a simple forest path. It had led her to a moment of discovery, reflection, and quiet wonder. Every step along the way had taught her to notice, to trust, to feel. The forest seemed to exhale around them. Leaves rustled softly, sunlight shimmered across moss and ferns, and the dog remained still, calm, as if aware of the sacredness of the moment. Sarah's heartbeat slowed, her chest warm with a quiet joy that she had not expected to feel. "You show me so much," she whispered, stroking the dog's fur. "More than I ever imagined I could see or feel." The dog leaned slightly into her hand, steady and reassuring, a companion whose intuition had led her to this delicate, hidden truth. She took a deep breath, letting the golden sunlight and the gentle forest energy fill her. She realized that this discovery, small, subtle, hidden, was about more than objects or messages. It was about the journey, the trust, the quiet connection that had grown between her and the dog, and between herself and the world around her. The dog nudged her hand one last time before standing and looking toward the path ahead. Sarah rose, brushing moss from her knees, and followed. She felt a soft excitement, a gentle tension, as though the forest itself was inviting her to continue, promising that more quiet wonders awaited. And with that, Sarah understood that this was not the end of discovery, it was only the beginning. Guided by the dog's intuition, she was learning to see the hidden layers of the world, to notice beauty in places others might overlook, and to trust the quiet wisdom of a companion whose presence had already changed her life. The forest remained warm, alive, and golden around them. Sarah's heart was open, her senses alert, and her bond with the dog deeper than ever. Every rustle, every shadow, every glimmer of light carried meaning now. And as they moved forward together, she felt certain that the next step would reveal even more, if she had the patience and trust to follow. The forest seemed quieter now, yet alive in subtle ways. The golden sunlight shifted through the canopy, casting soft patterns across moss, roots, and leaves. Sarah walked slowly, following the dog's steady pace. She could feel her heartbeat in rhythm with its movements, a quiet harmony she had never experienced before. The dog paused at the edge of a small hill, sniffing the ground carefully. Its ears twitched, eyes sharp, fixed on something ahead. Sarah crouched beside it, holding her breath. She didn't know what to expect, but she trusted the dog completely. Step by step, she let its calm intuition guide her. They reached a clearing that was wider than the others, sunlight spilling over a small pond surrounded by ferns and ancient trees. The water shimmered, reflecting the golden light, and tiny ripples spread across its surface as a gentle breeze passed. Sarah's breath caught. She felt the weight of this moment, the quiet stillness, the beauty, the intimacy of the discovery. The dog stepped closer to the water, then sat, gazing at something just beneath the surface. Sarah knelt beside it, heart tight with curiosity. She leaned closer, noticing small stones arranged in a circle along the pond's edge, almost like a deliberate pattern. And then she saw a faint glimmer, a small wooden figure half submerged in the water. Her hands shook slightly as she reached toward it. The dog remained calm, watching her, nudging her gently when she hesitated. Sarah lifted the figure carefully. It was carved with delicate precision, a miniature representation of the forest around her, the trees, the pond, the ferns, even the little trail they had followed. Every detail had been captured with care. A note floated inside the wooden figure's hollow, for those who see with patience and trust. You have followed wisely. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. She looked at the dog, whose calm, knowing eyes reflected the same quiet wisdom. Every step, every pause, every subtle gesture had led to this. She knelt on the soft moss, feeling the warmth of the sunlight and the gentle presence of the dog beside her. I don't know who left this, she whispered, voice trembling slightly. But I understand now. You've been guiding me all along. The dog nudged her hand, tail wagging softly, as if confirming her realization. For the first time, Sarah truly felt the depth of their connection. The dog's intuition was more than physical guidance, it was emotional, spiritual. It had taught her patience, attention, trust, and a gentle kind of courage she hadn't realized she possessed. The pond reflected her face and the dog's beside her. The still water mirrored the calm of her heart. She realized that this journey was not about finding treasure or uncovering secrets in the ordinary sense. It was about discovery in the deepest, quietest form, learning to notice, to trust, to feel connected. The forest around them seemed to exhale, leaves rustling softly in approval, sunlight warming the earth. Sarah traced the carved figure with her fingers, marveling at the care someone, or perhaps a previous visitor guided by intuition like the dog, had put into this hidden place. Every detail spoke of patience, observation, and subtle beauty. I think I understand, she whispered. It's not about me alone. It's about seeing, noticing, and trusting what guides us. The dog nudged her hand once more, warm and deliberate, and she leaned into the soft fur, heart swelling with quiet joy. She stood slowly, taking a deep breath of the forest air, allowing herself to take in the scene. The pond, the circle of stones, the wooden figure, it all felt like a culmination, a gentle reward for her attentiveness and trust. The dog sat beside her, calm, composed, and infinitely wise in its stillness. A subtle wind stirred the leaves, carrying scents of earth and moss. Sarah exhaled slowly, letting herself feel a deep emotional release. She realized that, more than anything, this journey had opened her eyes to the beauty and subtlety, the value of patience, and the quiet power of intuitive connection. The dog rose and turned toward the path, nudging her gently to follow. Sarah smiled, brushing her hand over its fur. Lead the way, she murmured. She knew that the forest still held more secrets, more quiet lessons, and she trusted the dog to guide her with the same steady care it had shown since the beginning. Every step forward felt lighter, more deliberate. Every breath seemed deeper. The emotional turning point had arrived, not with noise or fanfare, but with a quiet, profound clarity that filled her heart completely. The dog and forest had worked together to teach her something she would carry forever, the art of noticing, the value of trust, and the warmth of shared intuition. As they moved away from the pond, sunlight streaming through the trees, Sarah felt a quiet anticipation for what might lie ahead. She didn't know what the next discovery would be, but she understood that it didn't matter. The journey itself, shared with her dog, was already transforming her in ways she could not yet fully articulate. The forest stretched around them, golden and alive. Sarah's heart was open, her mind alert, her spirit calm. And as she followed the dog along the hidden path, she knew that the most meaningful discoveries were not always visible at first, they were felt, understood, and trusted. The forest seemed to hold its breath as Sarah and the dog continued along the winding path. Golden sunlight filtered through the canopy, casting warm light over ferns and mossy roots, and every sound of the rustle of leaves, the distant call of a bird, the whisper of the wind, felt magnified, deliberate, meaningful. Sarah's heart was full, her senses heightened, her attention completely focused on the world around her. The dog paused suddenly at the edge of a small clearing. Its body was still, ears alert, eyes fixed on something hidden among the tall grass and undergrowth. Sarah crouched beside it, following its gaze, and realized that the moment she had been anticipating was here. Whatever the dog had been leading her to, the forest itself seemed to hold a quiet reverence for it. A soft glimmer caught her eye, a tiny wooden figure, similar to the one they had found near the pond, but larger and more intricate. It rested on a bed of moss, partially covered by fallen leaves. The dog sat calmly beside it, tail low, its presence steady and reassuring. Sarah approached slowly, heart racing with quiet anticipation. She knelt and brushed away the leaves, revealing a delicate carving of a dog, its posture perfectly mirrored by the one sitting beside her. Every detail had been carefully crafted, the tilt of the head, the curve of the ears, the gentle gaze. And beneath the figure was another note, written in the same careful, deliberate handwriting. For those who follow with patience, for those who notice with heart, the world will reveal its quiet truths. Tears pricked Sarah's eyes. She looked at the dog, whose calm, intelligent eyes met hers, as if confirming the note's message. Every step, every pause, every subtle gesture had been purposeful. The dog had led her not just through the forest, but toward understanding, trust, and connection. She ran her fingers over the carved figure, feeling the care and love that had gone into its creation. You've guided me here," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. The dog nudged her hand gently, tail wagging softly, its presence warm and grounding. The forest around them seemed to exhale in quiet approval. Sunlight shimmered through the branches, highlighting the dog's attentive posture and the delicate details of the carving. Sarah realized that the truth of this journey was not just in the objects they had discovered, but in the bond that had grown between her and the dog. Every step, every pause, every shared silence had led to this heart-touching revelation. She remembered the paw prints, the subtle markers, the careful nudges, and the quiet insistence that had guided her through the woods. And now she understood fully, the dog's intuition was not merely instinct, it was connection. It had understood her heart, her curiosity, her need to see and trust, and had led her to the very essence of the forest's gentle secrets. Sarah stood slowly, cradling the carved figure in her hands, and looked around the clearing. Every detail seemed alive, the moss glistened with dew, the sunlight danced across the leaves, and the soft hum of life in the forest created a perfect symphony of peace and wonder. She realized that the forest itself had been teaching her the same lesson the dog had: patience, observation, and trust could reveal truths far deeper than she had imagined. The dog nudged her hand again, a quiet reminder that this journey was not over, that there was still more to notice, more to feel, more to understand. She smiled through her tears, feeling a warmth that spread from her chest to every corner of her being. The bond they had formed was complete, not in ownership or direction, but in shared experience, mutual trust, and quiet understanding. Sarah looked down at the carved figure once more. Its details mirrored the dog, the forest, and the path they had walked together. It was a testament to care, intuition, and the subtle magic that comes from noticing, observing, and trusting. And she understood that this was not just a moment of discovery, it was a moment of transformation. "You show me so much," she whispered softly, voice trembling with emotion. The dog leaned slightly into her hand, steady and warm, grounding her in the calm certainty of the moment. Every beat of its tail, every gentle breath, every quiet nudge spoke volumes, confirming what she had begun to realize: the greatest truths were often hidden, waiting for patience and trust to uncover them. The forest seemed to glow around them, golden and alive, as if celebrating the revelation. Sarah exhaled slowly, letting the warmth of sunlight, the presence of the dog, and the quiet wonder of the hidden treasures fill her completely. She felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude, not just for the objects, the carvings, or the messages, but for the journey itself. For the dog who had intuitively guided her, for the forest that had quietly revealed its layers, for the moments of attention and reflection that had led to this heart-touching truth. And in that moment, she knew she would never forget this day, this forest, this dog, or the quiet truths that had unfolded before her. She knelt, pressing a gentle kiss to the dog's fur. "Thank you," she whispered, voice full of warmth and awe. "For showing me, for trusting me, for guiding me." The dog wagged its tail softly, calm and wise, as if saying simply, "I knew you would notice. I knew you would understand." Sarah exhaled slowly, letting herself feel the full depth of the emotional turning point. She realized now that the journey through the forest had changed her. She was more attentive, more patient, more open to subtle truths. And the bond she shared with the dog was no longer just companionship, it was trust, understanding, and quiet love. The forest shimmered around them, golden and alive, holding the secrets they had uncovered, yet whispering that there were more to discover. Sarah stood, holding the carved figure carefully, and followed the dog back toward the trail, heart full, spirit calm, and eyes open to the beauty of subtle, gentle revelation. The forest seemed to breathe with them as Sarah followed the dog along the winding path. Golden sunlight dappled the ground, casting soft patterns across moss, ferns, and fallen leaves. The quiet rhythm of the woods matched the steady beat of her heart. She felt lighter now, freer, transformed by the journey and the gentle guidance of her four-legged companion. The dog paused at a familiar clearing, the one where their journey had begun in earnest. It sat calmly, ears alert, eyes reflecting the warmth of the golden light. Sarah knelt beside it, brushing a loose strand of fur behind its ear. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" she whispered softly. The dog nudged her hand, tail wagging gently, a reminder that this bond was unspoken but complete. She glanced around, taking in the forest one last time. Every leaf, every shadow, every ray of sunlight felt alive. She thought about the carvings, the notes, the careful paths, and the paw prints that had guided her. They were more than discoveries, they were lessons in trust, attention, and quiet intuition. And they had taught her something invaluable, that connection, patience, and presence can reveal truths far deeper than words can capture. The soft rustle of leaves reminded her of the journey's beginning, the first glimpse of the dog, standing still with that purposeful gaze. She remembered the way it nudged leaves, sniffed the path, and waited for her to notice. It had led her gently, patiently, toward understanding not only the forest's secrets, but her own capacity for wonder, trust, and care. A breeze passed through the clearing, carrying the earthy scent of pine and moss. Sarah closed her eyes, letting the forest and the dog fill her senses. Every quiet sound, every soft shimmer of sunlight, every gentle movement of the dog's ears felt like a reassurance that she had arrived at a place of peace and understanding. "You've shown me more than I could ever have imagined," she whispered, voice trembling slightly. "Thank you, for everything." The dog leaned into her hand, calm and steady, and she felt the warmth of its fur grounding her in the moment. It was more than companionship, it was quiet guidance, trust, and the unspoken language of hearts connected. Sarah rose, holding a deep sense of gratitude. She realized that this forest, the hidden carvings, and the dog's gentle intuition had healed something inside her, a quiet worry she hadn't even known she carried. It was replaced now by clarity, peace, and the understanding that discovery is not only about what we see, but how we feel, how we notice, and how we trust. The dog walked slowly ahead, pausing to look back, inviting her to follow. Sarah smiled softly and matched its pace. They moved through the final stretch of the trail, sunlight spilling over them in warm, golden ribbons. Each step was deliberate, unhurried, filled with the shared rhythm that had grown between them over the course of their journey. Eventually, they reached the edge of the forest, where the trees opened to a soft meadow. The sunlight was brighter here, warmer, bathing the world in gentle light. Sarah took a deep breath, feeling the openness, the calm, and the profound sense of completion. She looked down at the dog, whose attentive gaze met hers with quiet understanding. "You've led me to something I didn't even know I needed," she whispered, smiling through tears of joy. The dog nudged her hand once more, a gentle reminder that the bond they shared was the real treasure, the journey itself, the shared trust, and the quiet revelations along the way. Sarah stepped into the meadow, feeling the soft grass beneath her boots, the gentle warmth of the sun on her face. The forest behind her had taught her patience, observation, and trust. The carvings, the notes, the paw prints, they were not just signs of discovery, but reminders of the subtle magic that exists when we open our hearts and notice. The dog walked beside her, tail swaying gently, each step echoing the quiet rhythm of her own. Together, they moved toward the open world beyond the forest, carrying the lessons of their journey, the warmth of shared understanding, and the heart-touching truth that the smallest gestures, nudges, pauses, observations can reveal the deepest truths. Sarah knelt one last time, stroking the dog's fur. "We did it, together," she whispered. The dog leaned into her touch, calm, steady, and full of quiet wisdom. She felt an overwhelming sense of healing, emotional, spiritual, and deeply personal. The forest had given her more than discoveries, it had given her perspective, connection, and the knowledge that she was never truly alone when she trusted and noticed. As they walked into the open meadow, Sarah glanced back at the forest one last time. The golden light, the rustling leaves, and the quiet paths seemed to wink at her a final gentle reminder that life is full of hidden wonders, ready to reveal themselves to those who are willing to notice with patience and trust. The dog paused beside her, looking up with warm, intelligent eyes. Sarah smiled and whispered softly, "Let's go home, but we'll always carry this with us." The dog gave a soft bark, as if agreeing, and together they stepped forward, leaving the forest behind but carrying its quiet lessons in their hearts forever. The sun shone warmly over them, the forest behind alive in memory, and Sarah felt complete, a heart healed, a spirit light, and a bond with her dog unbroken and enduring. The journey had ended, yet its gentle truths would stay with her, always.